Hey everyone, welcome to my show in which I interview people, cut it down, animate it, and upload it to YouTube. Today I ask you, what's the deal with Ben Levin? So would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, I'm Ben Levin. I don't know what the deal is, and I'm hoping you can help me.
So, how would you describe your music to a new listener?
One thing that's distinct about my approach to music is that the style changes album to album pretty drastically, and I think a lot of people get musical satisfaction and enlightenment from digging into a concept and exploring it further and further with each album. And for me, I find it to be a little different. I like to absorb a lot of different music from a whole bunch of different places and people. So it's hard to describe my music in terms of genre, but I would say, I guess the distinguishing element about it is that it's very eclectic and constantly morphing.
So, who were some of the biggest inspirations to your musical style?
Well, it's like every 2 years it seems to change a lot, but it started out like the big impact at the beginning was I went to synagogue with my parents, which is like church for Jews, and we had a cantor, the guy who's like leading all the songs and everything, who was quite good at music, like a really expressive, virtuosic singer, and I felt really moved by the melodies and everything, and a lot of stuff was in harmonic minor because he was taking his melodies from Eastern and Eastern European Jewish traditions, but that was like something that just happened so early for me. I mean, my earliest memories, we were going to that synagogue, so that was a big start. And then I got into like the Broadway musical Rent. I was listening to that pretty much every day, nonstop for several years. And then I was really impacted later on by like Nirvana and Weezer, and then Metallica, and then Led Zeppelin, and then Steve Vai. Steve Vai lasted a really long time, and then I got into Sufjan Stevens, and then Kendrick Lamar, and I'm skipping some stuff, but now we're here in this moment where lately I've been listening mostly to Vaporwave, partially for research, but also because the music's really taken me, because I like how closely tied the visuals and the music are. It appeals to all these different senses, like your ears and your eyes and your memories and all this stuff. And it's like perfectly suited to be consumed online, whereas like Shostakovich symphonies don't sit that well in your browser because there's too many other distractions. There's too many things to take your attention away from the intricacies and details and subtlety of the symphony. But with Vaporwave, it's like designed for being consumed on a browser where like you can get distracted by a million things and still get the music, because the music is just trying to color your experience of like the platforms that it's on.
So, how do you think the internet has overall changed the way that we consume music?
It's a great question. It's such a huge, sprawling, all-encompassing topic now. What I think people are very much aware of the immense effect social media has on people, and the internet in general has on people, and there's a lot of necessary discussion around how much that effect can be bad. My thought is that since it's so all-encompassing and it affects people so much, then I need to take it that much more seriously and try to make it good. Like, if there was one mission statement I could think of for musicians in 2020, it's to improve social media. You basically go in there, you say, okay, Instagram, it's mostly photos, but it's also like short video clips. So how can I make art for Instagram that it's actually made to live in the post itself? Like, it's not a means to an end, it's an end in itself. My point is that the internet has changed music so much because it's changed, in my eyes, the mission. So yeah, I think like things are different, not necessarily worse, possibly better, but there's opportunity in everything. Opportunity for art in every trend. Yeah. Well, lots of, I went in a lot of places there.
So, what is your main goal for making music?
Well, right now, during the virus stuff, my goal is to make everybody excited about something. Because if I think about like what gets me really excited or like what I look forward to, it's like it's a lot of contributions from a lot of different sources. So maybe my favorite comedian's got a podcast, and maybe my favorite visual artist is doing this, or my favorite YouTuber's doing that. And like when you combine all the various cool, entertaining, exciting things that all these different sources are making, then you end up with a big blanket of excitement in your life. Like just all these things that you're glad are happening, that you want to see and enjoy. So I want to just be part of that, where people can really look forward to my videos or really like dig my music, and it's like a piece of the many things that they look forward to. Because without things to look forward to right now, there really isn't that much point to living. Like you have to be excited to wake up. Yeah, I want to help people wake up, I guess. That's basically it. I want to help people wake up in the morning.
Yeah, you made that video about waking up in the morning.
Yeah, I've gotten very explicit with that, yeah.
Do you have any hobbies outside of music that you don't really show online? Or outside of just art or music in general? Because you're a very creative person, but is there anything that you do outside of that?
Not at this time. I guess I play games with some of my friends. I play Quiplash and those like Jackbox TV games like once a week.
Yeah, I've been enjoying Jackbox with some of my friends too.
Yeah,
it's really great,
isn't it? I'm kind of boring right now outside of that, but I used to be really into dog training and walking dogs at shelters and stuff. And I was volunteering a bunch and working with dogs that were like called like unadoptable because they bit a lot. And then I got bit on my hand and I was like scared because it's like, you know, you probably can't pursue a career as a guitarist and also work with dogs that bite all the time. And so I got deflated from that after I got bit pretty bad.
Aw. Alright, so you recently put out this live EP called The Wave That Got Away.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to talk about what it was like writing it and just what drove you to make it?
Sure. So I went on a trip to Georgia with Apartment Sessions, which is a collective of musicians that film these really big, sprawling arrangements of music within really small spaces and very quickly. So like they'll stuff like 100 people into an apartment to play like a giant arrangement of like an Arcade Fire song. And it's just a really amazing experience because you go into this really intense environment where you're learning the music while you're also surrounded by like 100 people, and you're crammed in this small space, and you're like pulling off this logistical feat of like learning it, recording it, staging it, just like getting it all done in like 3 hours. And so they took it to Georgia, and we have a lot of fun recording like 10 sessions. And then in the middle of the trip, we went to immigrant detention center in the middle of Georgia. It's called the Stewart Detention Center, and it's the second largest immigrant detention center in the US. And you go in there and it's just a prison. And a lot of the people who are in there are sent there because they're coming to the US to seek asylum. So they're not even like breaking any laws by any stretch of the imagination. They're doing something that's granted to them by international law to be able to come to seek asylum. And they're put in these prisons while the government kind of figures out what to do with them, or while they're like awaiting a hearing about whether or not they can actually be granted asylum. So we went in and actually did a visiting trip where we went and just had a conversation with people who are stuck there. You're not allowed to bring a pen and paper. You can't like do anything in there to like help them. And that was all juxtaposed to this really fun, euphoric process of recording a bunch of music and having a great time with a bunch of people. So experiencing such extreme versions of what it's like to be a human in this short amount of time kind of brought this feeling back to me that I had no idea that was missing, but actually it was missing, where it's this feeling of being actively connected to the world around me in this way that you may have experienced it when you're like singing in a large group, or when, I mean, it's hard to find experiences where this happens, but when it happens, you really know it's happening, where you feel like you're part of the interwoven species rather than just like this isolated computer guy. It just sort of stuck with me, and when I got back from the trip, I started writing The Wave That Got Away because I wanted to replicate that feeling. We're meant to live when living isn't fun.
That's a lot. Wow, that is just so much to take in.
YOLO.
I think one of the ways that you triggered all of these emotions was just through the lyrics alone. They seem so understandable and easy to grasp, but they're just not too on the nose like some songs can be. How do you go about writing your lyrics?
Well, in the case of The Wave That Got Away, I wanted it to be sort of prayer-like. I have this idea in my head, which could be totally bogus, but I think the reason religion exists is because there's actually this true thing that we all feel that gets muddied up by words. Like once we try to categorize it or like get specific about it, it just changes on a fundamental level. So you've now completely failed to express it by just trying to, but we like feel it and we understand it. Anyway, what I'm getting at here is when you start to write lyrics that are overly specific, you can sometimes make that same mistake. But then other times, if your lyrics are completely vague and open, there's no point. Nobody gets hit because you're not saying much of anything. Like if I were to describe the feeling as clouds of thought make my skin wet with the charm of 1,000 lives spent wrestling for dignity. Okay, that sounds poetic, but if I say that to you once, and then I say something else, you don't have enough time to think about what the heck that means. And I might as well have said nothing if I go right into the next line, unless you're gonna sit there and read the lyrics. But if you're gonna have an album that's whole point is to create that feeling of like togetherness, you can't have the majority of the lyrics be like that, because now you're already outside of that very human connection feeling and you're going into that construct of I'm the great poet and you all will study me. But the idea of The Wave That Got Away is we're all on the same level. The way the balance happens is from doing your best to not leave people floating for too long and not be too specific for too long, so that you don't make the mistake that like a religious text will make, which is to spell out the truth in too clear terms.
So, do you have any advice for people who are starting out on their creative endeavors?
Yeah. You have to be confident and you have to be humble. To be confident, you have to believe that if you try really hard and like spend a lot of time developing some skill, that you can be really good at it. Then the humble part, at the same time, you can't think that you're above any part of the process. If you look at something like, let's say, TikTok, which just like any other social media platform is riddled with stupidity and filth, but you can't be like, oh, TikTok is fundamentally stupid and I'm above it and I'm never going to take part in that. Rather, you should be like, this is the reality, like this is where people are, and I'm gonna meet them where they are with my art. I really think it's like a common mistake where people are like, well, I'm a musician. I don't make TikTok posts. But if you really want to help people with your music, if that's like part of why you're in it, you have to go to them and show them something they didn't know they wanted. That takes a lot of humility, because like over and over, even if as I'm saying this, I keep thinking like, gross, I shouldn't be making TikToks, I should be making symphonies. But that's like a kind of an ego approach of like the difference between a serious artist and like just a pop artist. But I think you gotta go to where the people are.
Alright, well, thank you so much for coming on. This has been really meaningful. You've given me a lot to think about.
Hell yeah, no problem. Yeah, I'm thinking about it too. I don't even know if what I say is right. It's just what I'm thinking in the moment. We'll see.
Alright. Well, yeah, thanks.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this ending is always so awkward. I'm sorry, I never really...
It's okay. You got it. You got it. You got it. You got it.
Alright. A massive thanks goes out to Ben for coming on, all the amazing people who did fan art, and to you for watching. I just want to quickly plug my Twitter, so if you want updates on when videos are coming out, or you just want to see my art, make sure to follow me over there. I also have a Discord server and an Instagram if you're interested in either of those. But yeah, thank you all so much for 2k subscribers, of course. Yeah, I'll see you later. Ha.